Welcome, beautiful people, to the podcast Tea Time and Soul Talk with Ella Aria Shanta. As we're still on a lockdown and we're still social distancing, this third episode will be done on my own, with a little help from my student Mitya by doing the editing. Thank you. The last episode was about self-love and how it is connected to the worldwide situation. But today, I will try to explain the difference between self-reflection and self-criticism, and give you a tool in the form of a questionnaire that can help you self-reflect. Let's talk about it. So what is self-reflection? Self-reflection can be explained as a tool or technique that helps us achieve some idea about who we are and more precisely how we function. What is our driving force? What are our beliefs? And so on. It's a very good spiritual tool that can help us assess our life path and the direction of our spiritual quest. For me personally, that is a tool I've always used, and it's an important part of my growth as a spiritual being. When I started with the workshops that were about relationships and communication, that was the one thing that helped me to see the greater picture. From there came my theory about hedgehog and eagle perspective, as I have talked a little bit about it in the first episode. Hedgehog perspective is about a narrow vision, being followed by your own desires and expectations, hibernating our feelings and being always on edge. Just like hedgehog spikes represent its defense mechanism, ours represent our ego. On the other hand, eagle has a broader perspective as he's higher up, and at the same time, he has a very detail-oriented vision and understands more about his primal needs. To put it into a human perspective, it represents our broader view of life and a certain detachment from our emotions, so we get a clearer vision of what we truly need or want in our life. So that perspective is similar to self-reflection. Now, there is a substantial difference between self-criticism and self-reflection. Self-criticism is about judgment, and self-reflection is about observation. One has a stronger emotional input, and the other has a lesser emotional input. One is attached to negative emotions, and other is detached from them. When self-reflecting, we assess the situation without judging ourselves. So we assess our actions, our thoughts, our emotions, and we try to analyze them. What is behind them? We try and see the bigger and clearer picture, not judging ourselves in the process, but assessing ourselves. Or to be more precise, our actions. As we're not qualified to judge, we're still not all-knowing, wise beyond this reality, and most likely, we are not self-realized. So we assess, were my actions loving or not? Did my words have any beneficial qualities that can help me as a human being? Did they help the situation or not? What kind of influence did my actions have on other people? What was behind my action? And so on. On the other hand, self-criticism is attached to emotion. We come from a negative emotional place, and it's usually judgment, not the observation. What I did was wrong, bad, so therefore I am bad, I'm stupid. So we become the judge and the jury. We're thus always in negative emotions, and we rarely truly learn from our actions that seem to have a negative effect, because we do not approach it in a beneficial way. As we become the judge and the jury, we punish ourselves, or we sweep it under the rug. But according to what and who? Of course, their actions like purposely taking a life. In any form, it's against not only the law of the world, but also karmic law, if that is not part of our dharmic duty. But we are not talking about that now. We're talking about judging for not meeting our own expectations or expectations of others, thus allowing the self-criticism to take place. We can pause negative emotions, and with those emotions start building up and resurface in the form of chronic worrying. What are people going to say? How are they going to react? That can completely destroy our self-esteem, which can then shape into a chronic mental illness or bodily illness. So self-criticism doesn't have a healthy approach. On the other hand, self-reflection gives us a certain broader point of view without involving those negative emotions. Our consciousness, our humanity, tells us that our actions didn't feel like they had any peace or love in them, so we want to learn more about it. So here comes the question, why? That is an important question to ask. Pointing fingers is easy, but mostly ineffective, because it will not absolve us from our responsibility. So we ask ourselves, why did I do that? Why was this situation created? What do I need to learn from it? Would I need to recognize that it had to manifest itself to such extent? So we try to understand our mechanism. Remember the second step of self-love, understanding oneself. We ask ourselves, what were my feelings at that moment? What was the trigger? What did I do that was not loving or caring towards myself or anybody else? So saying I'm stupid, does that help us in any way? Will we transform or change because of that? Or will we just say, I'm stupid, I'm mean, I'm ugly, and so on? It's easy to say, isn't it? But is it helpful? Will that motivate us to change, to transform our future actions? No, it most likely won't. For example, you're driving under the influence of alcohol or drugs. Yes, of course, that action is irresponsible, stupid, and hurtful, but will that stop you from drinking and driving in the future if the consequence is hurting someone? Maybe for some time, but it will not give you an understanding into why you did it, what's behind that action. So in other words, you will not be able to understand your own consciousness and take responsibility in the long run. You will only feel some level of social consciousness that society bestowed upon you, or you will eat yourself up, develop feelings of guilt or even PTSD. That will really disable you to function in life. So you then contribute even more pain, not just to yourself, but others around you. So either you will stop your life or you will ignore the consequences. So question that you should ask yourself, why did I need the alcohol to socialize? Why am I being insecure? If I wasn't able to drive, why was I so arrogant, thinking I can control the situation? And so on. You see, those type of questions lead to self-reflection, and that leads to acknowledging our patterns of behavior and thus helps us to change it. But be aware, self-reflection is not about not feeling the pain or sadness or negative emotion. It just means we are not attached to these type of emotions, meaning we are not identifying ourselves with those emotions. Example, we have hurt someone's feeling, so we feel bad about it, but then we sit down in a quiet space and we assess the situation. I was feeling anxious or fearful, and my mechanism was in a defense mood. Or at that moment I felt belittled. And then we go deeper into what were our triggers and so on. We start to analyze the situation until we come to the root of the problem that was disguised under this poorly managed action. This type of observation can help us. And that brings us to more self-awareness and self-love, because self-reflection is a part of self-love. We're not judging ourselves or undermining ourselves, lowering our worth or value. It's about assessing our behavior, our mindset, our emotion, which then helps us to grow, helps us to transcend our poorly managed mind, expand our horizon, and help us to achieve inner peace. And in the end, all of the things we've manifested in our lives are there for us in order for us to learn. The stronger those events are, the stronger the alarm clock to wake us up from this illusion will be, meaning we will need a tougher experience. You see, the soul wants to be awakened in this reality, but the ego is constantly pushing back, wants to survive and control. Of course, that is another topic of the relationship between the soul and the ego. So in conclusion, self-reflection is a beautiful tool to expand the understanding of ourselves, our mindsets, mechanisms, and to see our actions clearer without self-judgment, and in such way accepting the responsibility for our lives in a healthier, more beneficial way. Whereas self-criticism is based on negative emotion and judgment mentality that weakens our mind and prevents us from growing. To help you self-reflect, I have created 50 questions. To find them, you can find me on the Facebook page ellaaria.shanta, or you can write me on my email teatimeandsoultalk@gmail.com. Thank you for being with me, listening. Hope you enjoyed this episode. And for the next episode, we will talk about desires and expectations. Stay in peace, love, and take care of yourself and people around you. And use this time for observation, meditation, and learning. This is Tea Time and Soul Talk. I'm Ella Aria Shanta. Till next time, stay safe.